שלום, נעים מאוד, שמי יפת מטטוף ואני מנהלת את קבוצת הדב-אופס ברפיד. אנחנו הולכים להציג עכשיו על המוצר שלנו, ויש לנו פה את אלכס שהוא הפילד CTO שהוא הולך לדבר גם על האקסטנשן של ה-VS Code שפיתחנו. בשתי מילים על רפיד בעצם מפתחת פלטפורמה לניהול כל הלייף סייקל של APIs. יש לנו מעל 40 מיליון מפתחים ומפתחות שמשתמשים בפלטפורמה. כמו כן יש לנו מעל 40,000 APIs במערכת. בעצם המוצר הוא שאם אני היום מפתחת או מפתח שרוצים לשווק את ה-API, אפשר לעשות את זה באמצעות הפלטפורמה, אפשר לפתח את ה-API, לבדוק את ה-API, ובעצם המפתח בצד השני במקום שיכתוב API בעצמו יכול להתחבר למערכת, להירשם לקבל את ה-API, ובעצם אנחנו גם יכולים לראות את כל האנליטיקות של הבילינג, כמות הריקווסטים שיש לכל API, וכמו כן אנחנו בעצם מאפשרים ללקוחות אנטרפרייז להשתמש גם כן בפלטפורמה הזאת, לניהול את כל ה-API הפנימיים שלהם שיש להם מאות או אלפי API, ולעשות את זה בצורה הרבה יותר יעילה. ועכשיו בעצם אלכס הולך להציג את המוצר, וכמו שאמרתי גם על האקסטנשן של ה-VS Code.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for joining the session today. So I'll be speaking through what Rapid is, how we're integrating into the developer's workflow, and helping support developers to better deploy and manage their APIs. So as she said, I'm Alex Walling here from Rapid. I've been with the team for about 5.5 years, and please feel free to Alex Walling. So really what I'm going to be focusing on today is RapidAPI Studio, which is where we're really focused on the builders of APIs who are deploying and creating new APIs. We're integrated into the CI/CD workflows to be able to easily keep all of these API listings up to date. And what we're focused on doing is helping you, the developer, better monetize and share your APIs out with other consumers. I'm also going to be speaking about VS Code and how we brought that experience into the IDE to be able to make test requests through a RapidAPI client, as well as other functionality to be able to meet the developers where they're working day in and day out. So I'm going to hop over into a quick demo here. So really what we're focused on is RapidAPI. This is the world's largest API marketplace where you can bring together all of your APIs into one centralized location. So what I'm going to speak about today is really more focused on the builders of APIs and how they can integrate to their CI/CD and deployment workflows to be able to keep these APIs up to date. So right here I've got an example API I've been working on with a couple of different versions. And I'm going to come over into VS Code and look at the developer's journey for how they're going to be coding and working on this API, as well as deploying it out to GitHub. So in here, as I would be doing in my normal day-to-day job, I could be working on an API, adding new functionality and endpoints. And what we've actually done is simply used GitHub Actions to be able to update automatically all of these APIs that I've been working on. So how I've defined this is pretty simple here. We've got a few different steps in the deployment workflow where we're going to build that API, deploy it out to the server, do some basic unit testing on the code, and then finally update the listing that's available in RapidAPI. What we also have available is great comprehensive testing capability. So not only can you update and maintain your APIs, but you can actually test them to validate that they're working as your consumers expect them to. So right here, I have a pretty simple test workflow where I'm just doing a basic request response, but you could imagine a much more comprehensive workflow that brings together not only one endpoint, but multiple different endpoints for this API. So coming back over into my GitHub or into VS Code, I'm going to go ahead and actually push this up to GitHub. And so by pushing this out, we're actually just going to integrate out to the existing CI/CD workflow that I have for this API. So again, it's going to run through all of these different steps that we have available. And it'll just take a second here. So as you can see, we've gone through a couple of the steps for this deployment workflow. And the main one where RapidAPI gets involved is when we actually update this API listing. So all it's going to do is use our platform API to publish the API spec that we have available, keeping everything in sync, the back end, the front end, and your consuming developers. So we can actually go back to this API right here, refresh the page, and the Wi-Fi in the convention center is a little bit slow. So bear with me here. But as you can see, we've gone ahead and published that new version. So now all the consuming developers know what the new functionality, endpoints, parameters are going to be. And once that's done, we can actually go ahead and just test this API right in the browser. So I can go ahead and authenticate, test the endpoint, and see this a working API directly in the browser. Again, the Wi-Fi here is a little bit slow, but you can see that 200 status code. So RapidAPI is really focused on making it a more streamlined, seamless experience for developers to use and consume these APIs. So I just went through a bit of that builder journey and how we develop and deploy APIs. I'm going to come back over into VS Code and switch over to a consuming developer. So one of the really cool things we've launched recently is what we call RapidAPI VS Code extension. So this is bringing an API client right into your IDE. So you've got the endpoints, the parameters. I can click into one of these endpoints that are available and actually send test requests through more of a UI visual-based request client to see what information, data, and functionality is available through this API. And assuming I like what I see, I can actually go ahead and copy the code snippet right from the IDE over into the program I'm working on. So I'm just going to bring this over. And what's great about this is I've gone through understanding the documentation, what parameters are available, and even pulling it right into my code, all from my IDE, instead of having to switch back and forth from the browser to my IDE. It's just a much more seamless experience. So as I've done this, I can go ahead and rerun this code and see it all works as I expect it to, and it's a much more seamless experience. So that was a very, very quick demo to RapidAPI, some of the products that we have available. We have a lot more available, and I would love to connect with all of you after this talk. And one of the other things that I want to highlight here is we do have a team from Rapid available and on site, and we are hiring in Tel Aviv. So we've got a lot of great roles open for DevOps engineers, data scientists, product engineers. So definitely come reach out if you're interested in a role at a company like Rapid. That was my talk, and thanks for joining.